Today, we have another great guest, Dr. Kate Edwards from Precision Physical Therapy. Running is where it all started for Kate. Her first race was the Hyannis Half Marathon back in 2003. She said she had no idea what she was doing and did everything wrong. Trained inconsistently, did the 9-mile run, wore brand new shoes, and went out too fast. Since then, she's completed multiple marathons, went back to school to become a physical therapist, and subsequently opened 2 successful offices. She's also written 2 books and just launched a podcast focused on endurance athletes. If that's not enough, she's also launching an online course and planning a retreat at Serenbe later this year. Take a listen to this dynamic episode with Dr. Kate and learn all about how she got to Serenbe.
You know, I really love the people. I can't believe how much I love the people here.
All right, everybody. Hi, welcome back to Serenbe Stories. Today we have Dr. Kate Edwards with us. Hi, Kate. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
Steve, here you are. Where are you hiding today?
Yeah, well, I'm right now in the biophilic room, just 2 floors below Dr. Kate's studio.
Yeah. I want to jump right in, Dr. Kate, and learn how you discovered Serenbe.
Oh, it's long, so I'll shorten it.
Okay, we got time.
But it actually started a long time. Well, probably my son is 7, so about 6 years ago. My husband used to bring him down to feed the animals and be outside when we lived in Decatur. And he kept coming down without me. I was tired and I wanted a break. So I'd say, you guys go, you go. And then I came down once, and after he said how much he loved it, because at first I thought, well, why do I want to go outside the city? It's muddy. There's animals. Like, I don't know about this whole thing. I was in my city mode. And then I finally came down and I found it to be very lovely. And it was a lot smaller then, but we went to the Blue Daisy and we walked with the animals, and Andy really loved it. So that was really the first time. And then we came back multiple times after that. And then eventually, when I started my own company, I decided I needed to go on retreat by myself. And so I would take a week or 4 days alone so that I could really work on my business plan and write and do things that I needed to do. And I would just come stay in Serenbe by myself. And I loved it. And every time I came by myself, it was a new adventure, whether I was going to the yoga studio or I was going for walks in the woods or sometimes sitting out at the cafe, working on my computer. It was great. But what's very funny now living here is I thought, wow, does anything ever happen here? It's so quiet.
Surprise, surprise.
I know. And it was actually Garni that got me to live here, to work here. After one of my, one of my retreats, I will call it, I got a phone call from Garni about a week later. And she said, hi, I'm Garni Nygren, and I'd love for you to open a practice here. And I
love
said,
it.
What? Why would I open a practice there? That doesn't make any financial sense. There's nobody there. It's so quiet. It's funny.
I do recall that because Garni, when Steve built the One Motto building, which is, for our listeners, is located in one of our neighborhoods, the intention for the building, it's anchored by sort of veg forward health restaurant. And the intention was it would be full of wellness practitioners. And and if anything, having lived here for 12 years, I know is Steve and Garni say that they're going to do something. And even if it sounds like a wild idea, it will happen. So I believe that Garni may have been telling me, oh, well, this space up here, right on the 2nd floor or whatever, maybe, are you on 2nd or 3rd?
I'm on the 3rd. Yeah.
The 3rd. On the 3rd floor is going to be a physical therapist. And I was like, okay. And she has an office in Atlanta, but she's going to open one down here. I'm like, okay. So
Well,
how many years ago was that?
I think that was, I'm getting confused because of COVID, but I think we started talking in early 19 because I think I came in February that year and I was actually walking around, which is so funny. And I saw the One Motto building and I thought, wow, it would be really fun to have a practice here. And I actually wrote the number down to call. And then I went home and I'm like, that's completely insane. I'm not doing that. No. And then she called me a week later, but I think that was 2019.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and Steve, now it's filled up, right? How many people are in there?
Oh, we're totally filled. And And the great thing that because I just had an accident, so of course I've been seeing Dr. Kate. And
right.
Now what's great is the circuit that happens here because of all the practitioners that either in the One Model building or at the 10 Live Works next door. And so it's this incredible circuit of people.
Yeah.
And so a good example, I just fell and fractured my a fractured bone, and Dr. Kate's been seeing me, and she said, well, I think you can go back to Pilates. So before I could call the Pilates instructor, I get a note from the Pilates instructor, you've been released. Do you want your usual time at Tuesday morning? So it's just incredible. And I don't get in a car to go to any of these people that are the top professionals in their field.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So Kate, you actually have an office in Atlanta. So tell me when that opened.
I was just looking at this. I think I opened it in 2015. So I think it's been just about 6 years.
Okay.
Yes. So I have a bigger office in Atlanta with a few therapists and a really big space there. And I thought that's the only place I was going to practice.
And then how busy are you down here now?
Well, it's funny because I told Garni, absolutely, I'm only opening one day. That's all I can staff. And then it became 2 days. And then I had to ask one of my therapists from Atlanta to drive down. So now we have 3 full days that that we can see patients. And I'm currently looking. So if anybody hears this and they want to move to Serenbe and they're a physical therapist, I need a physical therapist.
I love it. Yes. Let's put the call out.
That's right. So I'm putting it out in the universe because I need another person. I want to open the office full time at this point because we have people who want to come in that are waiting and we just can't get to them yet.
Is that not amazing? I mean,
it's amazing.
It's just incredible. When you weren't sure you could fill one day.
I know.
Well, and we just got a pediatrician that I think is also doing like one day. Mm-hmm. And I can imagine that same thing's going to happen to her because there are so many kids here.
So many kids.
I mean, Kate, you have a 7-year-old, right?
That's right.
Like he must have like a zillion friends. There's a zillion kids here.
He loves it here. And that's part of the thing. I mean, I don't know if you want to move to this part yet, but he has been so happy since we've moved here. I mean, I have, and my husband has as well, but Andy the other day was running in the woods saying, I live outside now. I'm a nature boy.
I love that.
Well, that's the greatest part is not only did you reluctantly, carefully open an office here, then you decide to move here full time.
Well, it was because of the people. So that's the funny part is I kept coming down here. I would drive down 1 day a week and then 2 days a week. And it got to the point where I never wanted to leave. After work, I would go sit on someone's porch. And, my husband would say, how late are you working? I'm like, I'll be home soon.
You're like, I just have one more client.
And it got to that point. And then I kept saying to my husband, I really love the people. I can't believe how much I love the people here. And we were actually packed to move to New York.
What? Wait, I didn't know this.
Yeah, we have a house in New York with my family. My entire family's there. And I'd set my Atlanta office up so that someone else was running it already. And I was going to fly back and forth once a month. And so we were packed. And then the pandemic hit and I didn't want to leave the practice. Either one, because, it was a pandemic. I didn't know it was going to happen. And then we were in it. We were in our house. We were partially packed up. I fell in love with Serenbe. One of my patients said they were putting their house on the market. So we bought it.
Oh, you're kidding me. So one of the people who owned your house was one of your patients.
Yeah.
No way. I love it. And so you live across the street from me now. So I still think of that as the Colweiler's house, which is like 2 or 3 people ago.
Yeah, and I don't know who they are.
No, they moved to, they were in like somewhere in Europe and then they moved down to like Rosemary Beach and they might be back. Like the husband got a job somewhere else. But that's awesome. I love that you're across the street. And so, so you just got puppies.
Oh, yes.
Tell us about your puppies. I'm obsessed with your dogs.
I actually just got back from an hour walk in the woods with them because I knew they wouldn't be able to be quiet while we were on the podcast. And also, I take them every day in the woods for about an hour, but I have 2 Weimaraner puppies and they're 17 weeks old and they have lots of energy.
Cute. They're getting big.
They're getting huge. They're tall and skinny.
Maybe if we have any photos of them, we'll put them on the podcast webpage.
You twisted my arm.
I know. Okay. So I want to hear how you wanted to become a physical therapist. Like, how did you get into that profession? I know you went to Emory, but like, how did you get there? And then I want to hear, you were huge marathoner, endurance running. I want to hear the whole story. So,
oh, that's a loaded question. So I actually have a communications degree for undergraduate, and I had another job in marketing, and I was not happy. And I was a runner, and I was running all the time. I was training for my first marathon, and my marathon coach was actually a physical therapist.
Okay.
And she was incredible. And I found myself spending more and more time with her and kind of watching her when we were doing our track workouts and asking her lots of questions. And then I ended up going to work with her, all sorts of things. And finally I decided, I don't know what I'm doing. I need to be a physical therapist. So I went back to school. I actually had to go and take courses at night while I was working my other job in order to get all the prerequisites to get into PT school. And then I went to PT school. I went to Emory. And during that time, I was, becoming a marathon runner, running more and more marathons. I think I ran 13 marathons and well over 50 half marathons and triathlon, all that kind of thing. And so that was really my passion, and I loved it. And I went into PT knowing that I would treat runners. And then in PT school, I really loved everything I did. I was shocked that I liked treating the neurological patients. I like treating in the hospital. I just like treating patients and being with people and making a difference.
Yeah.
But in the end, I did an orthopedic residency after PT school, which is fairly common now, but 10, 11 years ago, it was not common at all. And then that kind of put me in the trajectory for more orthopedics and sports medicine. And then I just kind of kept taking every course I could to treat runners and triathletes. And now I do that myself. I teach about runners and triathletes.
I love it. How did you get into the endurance side of it? I mean, obviously a marathon's a very long race. And my husband's done a few of those, but like, I'm more of we were talking with our producer, Janet Marie, like 5Kers, kind of like right there, real happy with that. But from there, you started to do triathlons. Like, tell us how you kind of that arc happened.
Yep. So I think that it's a very different kind of person that likes to do endurance events. And I like to say we're a bunch of type A personalities that need to have, we just need the space. So for me, it was a mental break. I would run 20 miles and it was when my brain would shut off, and I could also be creative. So it brought a lot of creativity to me. But the other thing is I found, and I wrote a book about this because, it's a long story. I can't do running anymore, and I can't do triathlon anymore because of a rare genetic heart disease. But for me, it was, I felt like I was running away from something for a long time. I didn't realize it until I lost it, but I used it as a way not to address a lot of other things. And I think people do this in their life. And this is part of the health and wellness thing, is we pick one thing. Like, I was really crushing my body. I would run as fast as I could, as hard as I could, as often as I could. People didn't want to run with me because I would say, let's do 30 hill repeats. I mean, that's completely insane.
Right.
And so I pushed my body so hard so that I didn't have to look at the emotional and the mental components of my life. And it wasn't until I lost that I was able to step back and say, okay, there's a lot of other stuff going on that I need to take care of in order to truly be healthy.
Tell us a little bit about that. Because you do educate people, and it's called ARVC, but can you tell us what that is? And because you want people to know that there are cardiac issues, even when we think we're in top performance, you never know kind of what's lurking underneath sometimes.
That's right. So ARVC is arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy. So we'll call it ARVC. And essentially what it is it's a gene, and it can be turned on by cumulative exercise hours. So my son has the gene, for instance, and if I can't put him in sports because I don't want him to accumulate all of these exercise hours. So people who exercise more tend to turn the gene on. And when the gene is turned on, there's cells in the heart that the little bridges between the cells, they break apart. And then they form scars on the heart, which impacts the electrical signals. And so then you get into arrhythmias, and arrhythmias are what cause sudden cardiac death. And And that's what happened to me is I actually was on a run training for a half Ironman. And I went into ventricular tachycardia, which is where your heart rate can go really high. Mine was in the 300s.
Wow.
And, I can't believe I didn't pass out. I don't know how I didn't die at that moment, but I didn't. I breathed out of it. And then I eventually went to see a doctor. But so I was lucky. A lot of people never know that they had it. And the reason we know they had it is because they died. And it was, we found out postmortem.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's great that you're educating people because,
yes,
again, we're out there running, we think we're fit, we're doing everything right. And we are.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that there's something else going on.
Well, and there are a lot of warning signs and I missed them. And it was because I didn't know. And also it comes back to that physical, emotional, and mental thing is I was ignoring all the signs because I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to think it. I didn't want to think that I was weak, if you will.
Right. And did you've written 2 books now. Did the books kind of come out of that experience? And you were able to sort of put it on paper?
Yeah. The first one, Racing Heart, a runner's journey of, I actually don't remember the title. It's Racing Heart. It's love. I think it's love, loss, and perseverance. So
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's my story. So that talks about my journey from being an endurance athlete, why I was an endurance athlete, what that did for me, my athletic identity, because when you lose that, you don't know what to eat anymore. You don't know how to dress. You don't know who your friends are. Like you lose all of that if everything is in that bucket. So I talk about that. I talk about signs and symptoms. And then I talk about my entire journey of learning about what I have. And then the dealing with it part, the realization that, okay, this isn't my life anymore. I can't do this anymore. I have to do something different.
And then the second book is, has a really fun title, Go Ahead, Stop and Pee, Running During Pregnancy and Postpartum. As a mom, I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about this book.
So I wrote that with my co-author, Dr. Blair Green, and she's a pelvic health specialist and I'm a running specialist. So the 2 of us got together and wrote this book because we're both moms and we both ran during pregnancy and postpartum. And while we were running, we were looking for research and literature and trying to find resources about what to do and how to use our body so that we were safe. And there was nothing out there. And we had a hard time as physical therapists and people in the field who were educated. So we realized that most people don't have a clue what they're supposed to do or how to kind of continue to exercise safely through that journey. And so we created the book as a guide. It's essentially a lit review. So there's so many, we cited as much research as we could possibly find, but it's for healthcare providers as well as, regular people. And it's written so that anybody can understand. And it's a guide. So it goes through all the questions that you could possibly, ask yourself. We looked on all the Facebook boards that we could find and wrote out a bunch of the myths that we found and then proved them wrong.
Okay.
And then I wrote a running program to return to running postpartum. We gave exercises. It's really actually, I think it's great.
No, it sounds great. I would have loved, it's funny, there's so many things that go on, when you have a baby, postpartum, all the things, like people don't really want to tell you because it's like, maybe not so, fun. And so, I think it's changed a lot. Like my kids are now 14 and 16. I think that there's an openness now, to sort of discuss more stuff that's going on. But, I do find it funny. It's like all the fun things like the crib and the like cute stuff and not all the stuff that happens below the belt.
Right.
Now I think that you're involved with the birth center also here.
Not really.
Am I just thinking that like there's a connection there?
Well, I talk to them and I know them because we're all in the same community and sometimes we share patients, but I don't, yes. So I'm very collaborative. I work with, a lot of different people, but we don't have an actual connection in terms of business.
Right. But that collaboration, I think, is probably one of the reasons you're so beloved. I will say that for you.
Thank you.
And I think I said this earlier, is like, everybody I talk to just like raves that they walk in, in pain, and they walk out and they're like, I think she fixed me. It's the right, Steve?
And I'll back that up. It was, a few weeks ago, I was in there and someone was in there for their first appointment, but they were seeing someone else in the office and they were just fussing. I can't get in to see you. It's a 6-month delay. And so now you're pushing me off on somebody else. Da, da, da. And now I see him happily coming in and he marches right over, no complaint. He's totally happy now. But Kate has such a reputation in town that everyone thinks they have to see her because she has magic in her fingers, which she does. But she's also has other people in the office that do it. So it's just incredible. And I think you gather, not only are you healed by her hands, but her laugh. You have to walk out feeling better.
Oh, thanks, Steve. I love that.
It's true. But what do you think it is about your practice that's different from other practices? Is it the integration? Like, because you're setting the tone and you're setting, how it's run. But tell us a little bit about, like, how do you see it as different?
Sure. I think there are a lot of different things. I think I could look at it from many angles, but one of it is I really take care of my people. And the people that work for me are really, really important to me. And I do everything that I can to make sure that they're happy and they feel like they're valued. And we really collaborate a lot. And I do a lot of mentoring with my team and always have. So once you're in, it's like, I hope they never leave kind of thing. So if they're happy and they want to learn as much as possible and they want to be their best because they're being treated well, then they treat their clients that way too. And so I think it's just building that kind of environment is part of it. And then I think the second part is we all are really highly trained and have a lot of advanced education. Two of us have done residencies, which, there aren't that many people. There's under 10,000 PTs that have done residency. But when I graduated from residency, there were only 5,000 people in the country that had done an orthopedic residency. So residency training is a big deal. And then we just love what we do. We also spend more time with our clients. Our appointments are an hour long and one-on-one. So we're not dictated by insurance, which is really nice. And we can do whatever that client needs. So we don't necessarily, if they come in for an ankle injury one day, but then the next day they hurt their shoulder, because of the way that we're set up, we can treat that. So it's really nice that we can kind of integrate everything in. And then the last piece is collaboration. So if someone doesn't belong with me, I tell them they don't belong with me and they need to go see somebody else. Or like Steve mentioned, I work with the Pilates instructor here. I work with the yoga studio here. I work with the trainers. I work with the chiropractors and the acupuncturists. So just that collaboration piece.
Yeah, it feels very lucky that everybody's in one place at this point. So it's kind of wild.
So in the city, I think you said that to do this, you had to send people here and there and across town. That this wasn't.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier when everyone's on the same street.
You run into them for coffee and say, "Hey,
That's what we do. Honestly, we'll say, "Hey, do you want to have coffee?" Or I'll text somebody and say, "I'm sending so and so to you because of this," and they'll call or text back and say, "What do we need to look at?" And it's so easy. In the city, I do the same. It's the same kind of thing, but yes, I have to send them all over town.
Yeah. And it is interesting that many of them all live here now too. Yes. I mean, Julie with Pilates, Heather with yoga, we had on Serenbe Stories. That was our first one this season. Sebastian, our trainer, lives here. Yeah. Who else? Dr. Jeff, who just the chiropractor.
Amber lives here. I work with her too. Yeah. And now I lost it. Melanie.
Yeah.
There it is. Melanie lives here. Yeah, a lot of people live here.
Everyone at Creek Retreat, lives here.
That's right.
Yeah. No, it's super fun. One of the things that you've started recently, which I just learned about today, which I'm super excited about, is you also have a podcast. So we want to give a shout out to everybody to let them know. Can you tell us a little bit about it? It's about running, right?
Yes. So it's about endurance athletes. It's called More Than Miles. And we launched it in February. And we're talking about widening the lens on endurance athletes. And This is something that I think about not just for endurance athletes, but looking at an athlete or a client from this wide lens, knowing that you can't help them with their physical injury if you don't address the emotional and the mental component of it as well. So it's really looking at the big picture. How are they sleeping? How are they eating? Do they have everything they need? How is their mental health? Do they need to speak to a psychologist? That kind of thing. So this podcast is great. We've had a sports cardiologist on there to talk about how to return to exercise post-COVID, which was really cool. He's the guy that's putting out the research for that right now. And we just talked to a sports psychologist who's incredible, talking about, all of the barriers that happen when you're an athlete and how you can become better at performance and, what happens when you get injured, how to deal with that. And then of course I tell my story, and my co-host, Dr. Casey Sanders, who's also a physical therapist with me at Precision, she tells her story. So there are a lot of different things we do, but we're all over the gamut and really just trying to bring everything that endurance athletes need or should know about in one place.
I love it. Okay. So we'll put a little, we'll put that on the website. We'll put the job description maybe on the website. We'd love to have new neighbors.
I know, right? But we need some more houses.
I know. We'll talk to Garni about that.
I will.
That's great. So what else? Is there another book in you? You were saying, before we got on that you really have enjoyed writing, and what are your future plans besides the next physical therapist and more podcasts?
Sure. So I'm always writing journal articles, or I will probably write another book. I'm not sure what it is yet. I've got a couple brewing in here.
Okay.
I'm not really sure, but I'm actually putting together a course that's not for endurance athletes necessarily. So it's a little bit different, and it's really kind of come up since I've been here and seen some of the patterns and things within my practice. So I've said this a couple of times about how an injury is not just physical. So I'm going to I've written a course actually, and I think I'll do it in August. I'm going to hold it at the yoga studio. And I don't have a name for it yet, but what we're going to be addressing is how do we look at the big picture on injury and wellness and health, and how do we get ourselves in the healthiest place that we can, where we really can start taking care of our bodies. So I've found that a lot of my clients have had chronic injuries or chronic issues, back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, whatever it is, for a long period of time. And I know that it's not just physical. A lot of it is physical. Don't get me wrong. Like, things have happened. They've had an actual injury, but I also know that it has to do with how is that injury framed, and when did that occur? What was happening in their life when that occurred? There's a lot of pain science behind this that's driving it, that says, how you're injured, when you're injured, the circumstances that you're injured in impact how you do with that injury, whether you get better or not.
Wow.
And so I want to really break that down and talk to people about that and dive deep and get them to realize all of these other things to help them move past these injuries and improve their health and wellness journey.
I love that. So will it be in person and online, or how are you?
So I think I'm actually going to do the first version. I'm going to probably do a deep discount for people in Serenbe, and it'll be in person at the yoga studio. I mean, I'm vaccinated, and by the time in August, most people will be. And actually most people I know here are now.
Yeah, I'm almost done.
Yeah. So that's great. And I think because of that, we'll be able to do it. But I'll do it. It'll probably be about 90 minutes for 6 weeks in a row. And I'll have workbooks people can work through so that they can really get as much out of it. But I want people to talk and have discussion and really get deep about it and learn from each other's experiences. And then after that, I'm going to take the feedback, obviously, and see, how people felt about it, what they learned, what could be better. And then I'll launch it online so that people that are not in this area can also do it.
I love it. That sounds great.
Thanks.
Okay. That's good. But you've already written it.
I've written it. Yeah. Look for it in August. I mean, I wanted to do it before I went away for the summer for a few weeks, but then, there was no point in rushing it.
Right. Where are you guys headed this summer?
To our house in New York.
Okay, good. Where is it? Upstate New York, or where is it in this? Okay.
Oh, the place we were supposed to move.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you didn't go.
All your family is.
That's right. I love my family. I have a 96-year-old grandma there. So it's great.
That's amazing. Yeah. We're going to head out and see our family in Los Angeles at some point this summer too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And we're traveling again.
I know. Well, we'll all be vaccinated. They'll all be vaccinated. So we're pretty excited about that. I'm going to throw it to you, Steve, to ask our final question.
So, Kate, when you've told us a lot about the surprises on what you thought Serenbe was, and then what it turns out to be. So, is there anything that really surprised you, or something you want to share with everyone listening that they should look for when they come that might not be obvious?
Wow, there are so many surprises and wonderful things. I mean, from the fact that I can get my vegetables from across the street and they actually taste better, to the people here are so incredible. And I didn't know that there were so many wonderful people in one place. Like, I can't tell you, I was so afraid I wouldn't find my people here and that I wouldn't have any friends. And I laugh about that because, I just have really, truly loved everybody that I've run into. And there's this kind of hidden community that you don't see as a visitor. Like, you don't really see how strong the community is. A couple people have gotten injured or had something happen in their family where they've had a loss, that kind of thing, since I've been here. And I didn't know how fast those food trains were put together. Sometimes I couldn't sign up in time to help feed the person that needed the food. I mean, the community here and how people rally behind each other and support each other is just really incredible. And I think that that's what you don't see when you don't live here.
You feel it because people say, what is this? I just feel happy when I'm on the streets. Well, it's that energy that's being emitted by everybody that's walking, passing, waving.
Well, and people really are happy. That's the other thing, is when you come here, I said to my husband, there is no way that everybody is this happy. This is not real. I said, I really wanted to find the fault and the hole in everything before I came here. I said, it's not real. It is real. I swear to God, I'm not lying. You didn't pay me to say it. It's real. The moment I drive through there's no gate, but drive through, onto the road, turn onto Serenbe Road. I just feel my whole energy and my whole body relax. And I'm like, oh, good, I'm home.
Yeah.
And, and now we have medical documentation. Nature changes your mindset. Completely. And when you have an entire community connecting regularly to nature, it changes things.
It does. And we all go like I said, I walk my dogs for an hour a day in the woods, and I get to hear the wind through the trees. I get to hear the birds. I'm not a snake lover. I see all the pictures. I hope I just actually never see a snake. But there's, so many wonderful things about being out in nature and being out in nature together and with like-minded people.
Well, we just love that your smile, your laugh, that your energy has contributed to that whole tapestry, what is now Serenbe.
Oh, thank you. I love you guys too.
Oh. Thank you so much for your time. This was such a joy. I just see you on the street and we chat all the time. Yeah. But it's so fun to dig in and really get to know more of your background. So thanks for your time.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks, all.
Thank you for listening to Serenbe Stories. New episodes are available on Mondays. Please follow us and leave us a 5-star review. And visit our website to learn more about guests, episodes, and everything Serenbe at serenbestories.com. This episode is supported by the Inn at Serenbe, nestled in the rolling countryside of the bucolic community of Serenbe, where guests can walk on the 15 miles of private trails through preserved forest land, the wildflower meadow, and the animal village. Relax at the pool, hot tub, or in rocking chairs on a wraparound porch. Play on the croquet lawn, grab a canoe, and jump on the in-ground trampoline. Connect with nature and each other, all while staying in a luxurious space at the Inn at Serenbe. Book your stay today at serenbeinn.com, SerenbeInn.com.